Has the Modi government unleashed a cash crisis on India, or has it undertaken the biggest shock therapy that the black money economy needed in this country? Depending on which side of the treasury benches do you really sit on, you will perhaps agree or disagree with this. But my guest today is someone who's been at the forefront of that entire debate. Senior Congress leader and former Finance Minister P Chidambaram joins us right here on ET Now. Thanks a lot for joining us. The debate continues, but I want to clear the air and I want to just put it on record. Are you for or against the exercise that has been undertaken, or are you, in your own words, against the shoddy implementation and the poor planning, perhaps, in your own words?
You said exercise that has been undertaken.
I mean demonetization.
We are against the exercise that has been undertaken, so-called demonetization. It is not demonetization. In demonetization, you make a particular legal currency as no longer legal tender. This is simply an exchange of notes. I think the Hindi variant is very charming. It's not note bandi, but note badli. Now, this is not demonetization in the strict sense. More than that, we are totally opposed and we condemn the manner in which it was implemented. The preparation was terrible. The implementation was horrible.
I understand that. The reason why I asked you that question was that the former Prime Minister, when he spoke in Parliament, he said in principle he supports the attack or the crackdown on black money that is being undertaken. Is that a sentiment that you share?
No. Please use his exact words. He said that we support the objectives for which this exercise was taken. But this is not the manner in which that objective can be achieved. The three objectives that the government states is stamp out black money, put an end to corruption, and deal with fake currency notes. None of these three objectives will be served by this exercise.
Why are you so staunchly of the belief that it will not be served? The intention was that this is going to crack down on black money, and I must ask you this. As a politician, don't you believe that, given the fact that rough estimates seem to suggest that nearly 35 to 40% of a parallel economy exists in India, isn't this the shock therapy that was required to tackle or deal with it?
No, it is not the shock therapy, because the size of the black or shadow economy, according to a study, is 22% in India. But that's about the same in, say, a country like Israel or Belgium.
But that's not an excuse.
Just a moment. That's not an excuse. Therefore, the cash economy is not entirely black economy. You must make a distinction between cash economy and black economy. We're talking about black economy or a shadow economy. Now, I have written about it. I've done the calculations based on the World Bank study. In the US, it's about $1,600 billion. In China, it's about $1,400 billion. In Japan and India, it's about $500 billion. That can be tackled by various ways. And I'll tell you why this so-called demonetization will not tackle it. Let's start with corruption. By declaring 500 and 1,000 rupee notes as no longer valid, but introducing 2,000 rupee notes, what's happened? We have a case from Maharashtra. We have two officers of the Kandla Port Trust in Gujarat, and we have a military engineering service engineer, all receiving bribes in the new 2,000 rupee note. If a bribe taker will take a bribe in a 500 rupee note or a 1,000 rupee note, why would he not take a bribe in a 2,000 rupee note? In fact, he has to carry fewer notes. Let's take the second objective. Second objective of tackling counterfeit notes.
Yes.
Now, by all estimates, and this is an answer given by the minister in Parliament based on their own study, the estimate is 400 crore worth of notes is counterfeit. You know, the most counterfeited currency in the world is the US dollar. They don't care, because counterfeiting cannot be stopped. All you can try to do is stay one step ahead of the counterfeiter. That is why, from time to time, we withdraw old series notes and introduce new series notes, which is what I did in January 2014. When I did that, phased out the pre-2005 notes, the most vociferous opposition was the BJP. And Meenakshi Lekhi, the MP from BJP, went on air to condemn it as anti-poor. Therefore, counterfeiting of 2,000 rupee notes will also start. Besides, something which your viewers may not know, the new 2,000 rupee note and the new 1,000 rupee note do not have any new security features. They are the same security features.
There are no chips as was being touted
There's
about
nothing,
earlier.
no chip, no security feature. Therefore, if somebody can counterfeit the old 1,000 rupee note, he can equally counterfeit the 2,000 rupee note.
I buy your point in counterfeiting, but I beg to differ on the tackling or crackdown on black money. And this
I didn't yet come to black money.
I know. I
I've
wanted to wear your
I've only dealt with corruption and counterfeiting.
As somebody who's been in North Block and has tackled this menace, the use of high denomination went up exponentially to now be 86% of all the currency in use. Doesn't the moral obligation then lie on parliamentarians and lawmakers like yourselves to help the government of the day deal with it?
Did they ask us our help? Did they ask us our advice?
This couldn't have been done with advice and help.
Why?
An exercise like this has to be
Are you saying that no person in the opposition can be sworn to secrecy and asked his view? I mean, this government does not even consult a chief economic advisor. To expect them to consult us is, of course, completely naive. Let's come to black money.
Yes.
Now, the common currency in Japan is a 10,000 yen note. The size of the currency, the number written there, does not mean anything. It's the true value of what it can buy. Today, thanks to inflation over the last 20 years, the common currency has become 500 rupee note. When I started my practice as a lawyer, if you had 100 rupees in your pocket,
you were a rich
you were
man.
well provided for the day. But today, you need a 500 rupee to be considered well provided to take care of the needs of the day. So the denomination is not relevant. The point is, what is the purchasing power? Today, 500 rupees is the common currency in circulation. If the common currency in circulation is 500, obviously the RBI has to print 500 rupee notes. If 1,000 becomes a common currency in circulation, RBI will print 1,000 rupee note. Are you suggesting RBI should print 1 rupee notes and 2 rupee notes? They no longer print it.
So you're saying it's an irrelevant argument that because the higher denomination currency was in circulation, we need to...
Now, let's come to black money.
Right.
Now, please understand how money becomes black or white. I think you have said it before, others have pointed it out. Black economy or a shadow economy is not stock, it's a flow.
Indeed.
And I gave a simple example which people will understand. There's a farmer, there is a lawyer or a doctor, there is a restaurant. The farmer's income, which he gets by selling his paddy
Is
or
all
sugar
legitimate
cane,
and white.
is white. He goes to a doctor or a lawyer or a builder to build a room in his house. He takes money in cash, does not give a receipt. It has become black in his hand, shadow. He doesn't disclose his income. That lawyer or doctor or builder takes his family to a restaurant in the evening to have a meal and pays out of the same cash. The restaurant gives him a bill and accounts for it in its books. It has become white again. Therefore, black and white is not in the note. Black and white is who has it and who has disclosed it and who has not disclosed it.
Won't this exercise help in more disclosure?
It won't. I'm trying to tell you why. It won't. I'll tell you why. There may be fear for some time. But if the sectors that generate unaccounted transactions are free to continue to generate unaccounted transactions, and I'll give you an example. I want to admit my child to a school or a college. Even schools today are charging capitation fees.
That's right.
Suppose the school says, pay me 5 lakhs as capitation fee. And I say, listen, I'll pay you by check. So the school says, no, if you want your child admitted, we want 5 lakhs in cash. So there is a demand for black money. I'm desperate to admit my child.
So you'll generate it.
So I generate black money. How do I generate black money? I sell jewelry, take part of it in cash. I sell a property, take part of it in cash. If I have a house on rent, I tell the tenant, listen, the deposit you make to me, I want it in cash. As long as there is a demand, there will be a generation of black money, supply of black money. Answer is to tackle the sectors that generate black money, generate demand for black money.
But will you concede that we have to make our peace with the fact that black and white economy will coexist?
It does in all countries.
Is that a good thing?
It's not a good thing, but it's unavoidable as long as you've got legitimate cash income. If all income in cash is taxable, maybe you can put an end to a black economy, nearly put an end to. But in India, agricultural income is legitimate, not taxed. In the Northeast, all income is legitimate, not taxed. For various organizations like charities, income is legitimate, not taxed. Temple income is legitimate, not taxed. Therefore, as long as you have major sectors who have legitimate income, which is not taxed for policy reasons,
it will coexist.
It will coexist.
Let me just move on to the point that you made earlier, and you said that why could opposition not be taken on board and sworn to secrecy? You have time and again, since this exercise was undertaken, criticized what you call horribly planned, poorly implemented, terribly implemented. It's a trade-off. You either have a very secret mission on something like this, or you do the best planning possible.
I don't agree.
What's the trade-off?
I don't agree. I can't believe that this government cannot consult its own member, a former finance minister, Mr. Yashwant Sinha, swear him to secrecy and ask him how to go about it. I can't believe...
There are enough and more people in the government to consult people outside.
Then why do you ask us to comment on it? Therefore, we will only criticize. I can't believe it can't invite a former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and take him into confidence. To think that either Mr. Yashwant Sinha or Dr. Manmohan Singh will betray a secret is completely unacceptable. I reject it out of hand. In fact, they seem to have taken into confidence some special people in West Bengal and Bihar.
I'm not going to get into the property buying that allegedly the BJP
I
did, or
didn't
the
say
cash
anything.
that was, or the
I didn't
cash
say
that was.
anything.
That's what you're alluding to. There are commentators and people like yourselves have also said there is a certain flip-flop that has happened. There's a new norm, a new regulation every day. Just to be the devil's advocate, the government says
176 changes in the last 18 days.
I agree with you, and I think that has caused some amount of confusion and some
That's a
amount of panic.
pointer to terrible planning.
I agree with you, but the defense on that side is we were sworn to secrecy, we couldn't have done much. Just to be the devil's advocate for a minute, when you say that, the government's defense is that this is war room approach. We are trying to respond with as much agility as is possible to a very dynamic, changing situation.
Some factors don't change, cannot be changed. You should plan accordingly. You're withdrawing 2,300 crore discrete notes.
Right.
1,500. The capacity of your printing presses is no more than 300 crore a month. In fact, less, I'm told, but I'm assuming the installed capacity. You should know, simple paper and pencil will tell you, it will take 7 months to print the notes. So which note should you print? You should have started printing 100 rupee notes well in advance. If you had printed 100 rupee notes, nobody would have been wiser. You started printing 2,000 rupee notes. And the ATM machine was not calibrated for a 2,000 rupee note.
But the moment you calibrate an ATM machine, people will know why you're doing that.
So don't print a 2,000 rupee note. You should have started printing 100 rupee notes. All this shows terrible planning.
But wouldn't have taken that much more amount of time.
Should start printing earlier. What is the difficulty in printing 100 rupee notes? Therefore, I think there were ways of doing it. Even without disclosing what your plan is, you could have planned for this exercise much better. Even then, I think the objectives will not be served for reasons I've explained.
You have pointed out to the long queues and the people who have been discomforted on account of this, but all these long queues were not made up of needy people, and which is why this whole indelible ink and those kind of arguments did come to the fore and were finally implemented. Actually, there were people who were misusing the system or the provisions that were there.
Of course, once you create a scarcity, there will be misuse. Honest people will become dishonest. You created a scarcity. I'm allowed to put my money in the bank. I'm not allowed to withdraw my own money. but I need money. You have created a scarcity of currency. Once there is a scarcity, common sense and common economic sense tells us that people will take advantage of a scarce situation.
Is there a certain amount of panic that's leading to all of this?
There's a panic on the side of the government. That's why it's making these changes. I just saw, I was driving by, I saw the billboard, it's still there. Until December 30, you can exchange notes.
But that's been stopped.
Now you suddenly stop it. What is the trust you have in government's word? What did the Prime Minister say? Until November 24, we'll allow you, and we will increase the amount you can exchange. You first said 2,000.
Then you said 4,500.
For 4,000, then 4,500, then 2,000. Then overnight at 8 o'clock on the evening of 24, you say no more after 24th
Because
midnight.
they believe there isn't much demand now.
Are you kidding? You read today's newspaper. See the pictures in today's newspaper. There are people standing outside queues, outside ATMs.
If you were the finance minister, and let's for a minute presume you would have undertaken this exercise.
Why would
I know your answer will be I wouldn't have.
No
what
major-
are the 3 things that you would have done to ensure this was better implemented?
No major economy in the world in the last 50 years has undertaken this kind of so-called demonetization. We are in the distinguished company of Libya, Zimbabwe, and North Korea. You saw what the Greek minister said today. Europe withdrew its Euro 500 notes, but in a phased manner. If the purpose is to deal with counterfeiting, purpose is to ensure people do not use high denomination notes, you should phase out the current high denomination notes and not print any high denomination notes in future. If I was doing it, first let me make it clear, I would not do it.
But if you were doing it, what
If
were
I
the
was
3
doing
things?
it, number one, I will say, listen, the goal is to move high denomination transactions into digital and keep only cash transaction to the lower denomination. Therefore, we will not print
High
1,000 rupee notes from today, and we will phase out the 500 rupee notes in about 2 years. So people will know all high value transactions must move to digital, and only the smaller transactions, buying a toothpaste, a tube of toothpaste, buying soap, buying medicines, can be in cash. That is the first thing I would have done. Second thing is, and the government can still do it, I mean, my worry is if I give a suggestion, they may reject it because it's mine. They should reintroduce the banking cash transaction tax. That will keep a trail of large withdrawals of cash and large deposits of cash. Now, when the BCTT was introduced in 2005, the BJP was among the parties which opposed it resolutely. I agree, even within the UPA, there were voices of opposition. I had to withdraw it after 2-3 years.
Right.
Therefore, I would introduce a banking cash transaction tax. The third and most important thing that can be done is there is already a section in the Income Tax Act which says certain transactions cannot be by check above a value, I think 20,000 or something. It can, cannot be by cash. It can only be by check. So what they should do is make specific transactions, especially the large value transactions, can no longer be in cash. You must make that absolutely clear. There are various ways of doing it, but please understand, in a large economy where 98% of all monetary transactions are today cash transactions, you cannot move to a so-called cashless society by a midnight
Isn't that desirable though?
Which is?
To move to less cash, to move to a
The
more
only near cashless society in the world is Sweden. Even America is not a cashless society. Japan is not a cashless society.
I want to move away from what has been done to the implications or the impact of what it will be. Some people have pointed out that this is going to hit immediate consumption. Will you agree with me?
It has already.
It has. But has it not hit luxury consumption?
No, it is.
Because the poor need low denomination. They don't need high denomination.
Cauliflower, which was selling as 14 rupees, is selling at 4 rupees today. Is cauliflower luxury? Vegetables are rotting. It has hit all kinds of consumption. Necessities, luxuries and ultra luxuries. In fact, it may not have hit ultra luxuries as much as necessities. People are going and buying expensive music systems. People are buying jewelry. Therefore, I think what is What is hurt is people who produce and people who consume the daily necessities of life, vegetables, fruit, milk.
So are you someone who's worried about the implications that it will have on overall economic growth? Because there are brokerage houses that have put estimates from 0.3 to 3%. Your own former Prime Minister said 2% GDP cut. Is that a figure that you somewhere... I mean, where will we be at the end of this exercise as far as GDP
See,
growth
whatever
is
I
concerned?
say in this behalf will be speculative, but clearly everybody is agreed, although the government will rubbish anyone from John Reyes to Ken Rogoff to Larry Summers to everybody will be rubbished. It will have a negative impact on GDP growth. Now, they projected GDP growth of 7.6 for the whole year. The first half year estimate is 7.1.
That's right.
So they were projecting something like 8.1 for the second half year. Now, surely we're not going to get 8.1. We'll be lucky if we get the 7.1 of the first half. My assessment is overall GDP growth for the year will be between 5 and 6.
So you're saying almost a 2 percentage point
At
cut.
least 1 to 1.5. And if we are particularly unfortunate, it may even be 2. And now apply 2% of a $2 trillion GDP. Look at the loss already.
The trade-off perhaps will be that this is going to lower inflation because this is going to suppress demand. This is going to put less pressure
Is suppressing
on demand.
demand good in a developing country?
Because
Who will
inflation...
invest then? Who will produce then? Already there is no demand. Aggregate demand is low. Investment is negative. GF, gross fixed capital formation, is among the lowest. There's no credit growth. You want to suppress demand now. FMCG companies are now complaining that demand has fallen 50%.
They've cut their ad spends by nearly 50%.
Then,
So that's...
you're feeling the pinch now. See, everybody will feel the pinch. Point is, in a developing economy, the answer is not to suppress demand. The answer is to discourage conspicuous consumption using unaccounted money. And there are other ways of doing it. The best way of doing it is through the taxation system and the banking system.
So talking about the banking system, is there now a moral obligation? I mean, let's put aside what has been done. But let's keep the banking system right now. Isn't there a moral obligation on banks to finally pass on lower interest rates to people? They're going to be flush with funds and deposits. Their cost of our capital is going to come down. Is this time that the banks move to lower interest rates?
Don't count your chicken before they are
Hatched.
What you have allowed is one-way traffic. You're allowing deposit, you're capping withdrawal. Therefore, the aggregate deposit seemingly has increased. Open up withdrawal, remove the caps on withdrawal, and let's see how many people withdraw their money. They will withdraw it in new notes. Therefore, the net deposit increase can only be measured accurately after you remove the cap on withdrawal.
But if...
For example,
Yes.
I can put in money today, which I do. Whatever I earn, I put in there. I'm only allowed to withdraw 24,000 a week. Therefore, the rest of it will appear to be deposit, either savings bank deposit or current account deposit.
Right.
But the point is, allow me to withdraw, I'll withdraw more because I need more
But
cash.
if deposits do go up, do you believe there is moral obligation on banks to then pass it on to consumers? Which should fuel consumption.
If there is a demand for credit, if there is no demand for credit, how will the bank pass on the reduced, the advantages they've gained? There must be demand for credit. Demand for credit is the lowest in 20 years. Credit growth is the lowest in 20 years at about 8.25% or so. And the sectors where there is very, very low credit growth is the small, micro and medium industry. And therefore, if there is no credit growth, who will I lend to as a banker? If you don't want a loan, what will I lend to and how will I reduce interest rate?
Mr. Chidambaram, because this exercise has now been undertaken, for it to reach a logical conclusion, it will have to be supplemented by tax reforms.
Absolutely.
What kind of tax reforms do you think?
I gave you a few. You have to reintroduce the banking cash transaction tax. That will give you a significant revenue. If you implement it vigorously, it will give you a significant amount of revenue. Then you may want to seriously consider whether after GST is introduced, some tax rates can be reduced. See, GST initially in the first couple of years may not give you the kind of revenue growth that
But
you
eventually
want.
it will.
But
It's
eventually
intended
it
to.
will.
Yes.
And once GST gives you a revenue boost, then you might want to reconsider the existing tax rates. See, the tax rates which I introduced in 1997 for direct taxes,
That's right.
10, 20 and 30, have remained for the last 19 years and survived, I think, 5 or 6 finance ministers. But we can revisit that. We can revisit the direct taxes rate. That's what I would do. I would revisit the direct taxes rate once the GST is introduced and it gives you a revenue boost. I would reintroduce the banking cash transaction tax. More important, I would add to the list of transactions which cannot be done except by check.
Check. What is the scope of reducing direct taxes?
Not much immediately, because direct taxes are progressive, indirect taxes are regressive.
Yes.
I would be loath to support reducing progressive taxes and increasing regressive taxes. Not immediately, but in course of time, I think it's possible to lower direct taxes, at least for the first bracket.
The other player in this entire pie has to be the boss of Mint Street, and you have questioned the conspicuous silence of the RBI and the very less visibility of the central bank as an institution amidst this whole exercise. You just have the DEA and the Finance Ministry really leading it. Why are you questioning the RBI?
No, the number of people were silent.
Why are you questioning the RBI?
Why am I questioning or?
Why are people questioning the RBI?
Naturally.
The RBI board took a decision. It was conveyed to
it was orchestrated. It was a script written in advance.
But that's how decisions are taken.
Naturally, but there should be a full and free discussion. I want to know how many members in the board were told the implications of a decision of withdrawing 2,300 crore discrete notes. Let's see the minutes of that meeting. Did any board member speak up? Did anyone dissent? Did anyone express reservations? Did they ask questions about printing capacity? Did they ask questions about the remonetizing capacity of the RBI? Did they ask questions about, are the ATMs calibrated to take the new notes? Was this discussion, did this discussion take place in the RBI board? Appears not, because the RBI board met, dutifully passed the recommendation it was expected to pass.
And stayed locked till the announcement was made.
And they were asked to wait and have tea and refreshments. Then the recommendation is sent to the cabinet. Cabinet is waiting. The recommendation comes. Cabinet approves it. And the ministers are told, stay back. You can't leave now. 8 o'clock, the Prime Minister makes the announcement. And my information is that both the Chief Economic Advisor and the Deputy Chairman, or Vice Chairman of the Niti Aayog, who were presumably in a seminar in Kerala or somewhere, were informed after the Prime Minister went on air. Therefore, why do you treat this as a mystery show? Secrecy is not mystery. You must still consult
But
those who have to
secrecy
be
have been
consulted.
compromised in this entire process.
I don't agree. I don't think so. Budget secrets are maintained. There are many, many more people involved in budget making. Budget
Give us some
secrets are
credit for
maintained.
leaking some budget stories.
Who has leaked a budget?
Not leaked a budget per se, but there are budget stories that come out.
Obviously, if 10 people write 10 different views, one of them is bound to be right. I mean, that is not a leak. I mean, I don't
so while
believe
you question the whole process and while you question how well it was orchestrated, I want to ask you a question. Just yesterday, or in fact 2 days back, there is now a debate on how the 500 currency note is printed
You've
twice
got
over.
two versions. And you've got the...
Who would you blame for this?
Wait a
Can
minute.
RBI get away by saying that it was done in a rush?
No,
Shouldn't
RBI
the buck
can't.
stop with them?
RBI cannot, nor can the Coins and Currency Division of the Ministry of Finance. The Coins and Currency Division exercises ministerial supervision over what the RBI is doing, what the printing presses are doing. How can you get away with 2 kinds of 500 rupee note? And all that is, I think her name is Ms. Kilawala, a very fine lady. She's asked to put out a statement. No, both are legal tender. Please use it. I mean, what kind of a joke is this?
Who would you blame for this mess? The RBI?
Obviously, the RBI and the Coins and Currency Department of the Ministry of Finance.
So there's yet another debate that has been ignited due to this whole thing. Policymakers in New Delhi seem to suggest that there is room for a radical rate cut. As a finance minister, you've also wanted a rate cut. You've chosen to walk the path of growth alone. Let's put your finance ministry hat back. Would you support a radical rate cut right now? Do you believe there's elbow for a radical rate cut?
There is a case for a rate cut. What do you mean by radical? There is a case for a rate cut, which is why I strongly supported, advocated, even suggested the design for the MPC. Finally, the design I suggested has been accepted by this government. 3 members of the government, 3 nominated, including himself, the governor, and the governor has a second vote and not a veto. Let the 6-member MPC decide what kind of a cut is desirable and what kind of a cut is possible. But I support the case that a rate cut is desirable and feasible.
Is there room for more than half a percentage point rate cut?
That you need data. You can't...
you have a lot of data at your disposal.
No, I don't have the data which the RBI has got. Ask the governor to share the data and I'll give my view. But the governor must
There is also
speak.
this other debate which says that once a certain amount of currency is extinguished, the RBI's net worth is going to go up, its reserves will go up. And so there is this whole new debate that's gathering steam in New Delhi about a special dividend.
Kite flying.
Why would you say so?
Because people who are inspiring this theory are not only speculating, but have no idea how a central bank's balance sheet is constructed. They are applying corporate balance sheet principles to a central bank's balance sheet. Central bank recognizes income and surplus income is transferred to the reserves and dividend is paid out of reserves. Now the income of a central bank is only 3 things. 1, profit in currency trading, profit in bond trading, and returns on its foreign exchange investments. Now, theoretically, if X lakh crore does not come to the banking system, and theoretically again, if the RBI is able to say, I'm extinguishing that liability, it's questionable because every note says, I promise to pay. Can you extinguish a liability by an executive fiat is questionable. Assuming theoretically that is extinguished, that doesn't mean that the corresponding amount on the asset side
will go up.
It can be immediately transferred to the reserve because that is not income. And please remember, assets in a corporate balance sheet are real assets created by money. You buy property, you buy land, you buy machinery.
And in RBI's case,
RBI's assets is only the notes it prints.
That's right.
RBI can print notes. Therefore, I think all this is kite flying. I think I think already one past governor has cautioned the government, saying don't indulge in this kind of a kite flying or adventure. This will destroy the very credibility of RBI's balance sheet, is what one past governor, I believe, has said.
And in turn also the credibility of the currency.
There are several past governors and there are well-known principles how central bank balance sheets are constructed elsewhere in the world. And I hope the government does not embark upon any adventure, and I hope Mr. Urjit Patel does not remain a silent spectator when such an adventure unfolds.
I did not know one day you'll be batting for governors who speak a lot and speak their mind, but...
No, I've always supported governors. Governors have worked with me. It's only when government takes strong measures on the fiscal side
and it's not complemented by monetary
RBI
moves.
doesn't complement with action on the monetary side, then obviously we'll have to remind the RBI that stability with growth is the objective of the RBI.
I have 2 last questions. Will you give the devil its due? Because this whole exercise, while you may disagree with how it's done or the very necessity of it, cannot be looked at in isolation. The government did get a black money bill. There was a real estate regulation bill. They're trying to get the GST. There was an IDS before this. Can you look at this whole exercise in isolation? Because there are people out there who do believe that this is going to correct the real estate bubble, for instance.
This is just another exercise to fool a lot of people. I know a lot of people believe that black money will be unearthed There will be no more black money in this country. Corruption will come to an end. I mean, these objectives are good. But objectives have to be achieved by well-planned, well-designed schemes. You can't achieve an objective by simply spinning a fairy tale. I know a lot of people who are undergoing some inconvenience, in some cases suffering daily casual manual labor, people who earn a daily income by plying a trade or by practicing a craft, carpenter, plumber, mason. I know a number of them believe that, this is the way to hit the rich. This will make our lives better. This will put an end to corruption. This will put an end to black money. Unfortunately, it's not so. None of the three objectives will be achieved by this.
You're prompting me to a political question, but I must get the air clear on this. K.C. Chakravarti was on our channel a few days back, and he said, and I want you to clarify this, that did the UPA also discuss this with the RBI in the past?
Not to my knowledge. I have not discussed this with anyone in the RBI in the years that I was
Did your
finance
government
minister.
previously did?
There was an exercise conducted by the CBDT, and the CBDT put out a report. I think the committee was chaired by the then chairman of the CBDT. That report, I believe, was put out either sometime in August 2012 or 2013. I want the government, I've asked already, I want the government to publish that report. That report concluded, and two newspapers have quoted the concluding paragraph. The report concluded by saying, demonetization is not the answer to the objectives we have set for ourselves. The gains of demonetization are so small and the pain and disruption is so large that we advise against demonetization. That's the only exercise I know was conducted in the finance ministry.
You're a political animal, and so you must have analyzed the political consequences.
Political nor an animal.
You're a political being. What are the political consequences of this move? Because if this is politically damaging for the BJP, then there is an opportunity for you to tap. And if there isn't, then they've done their homework, it seems.
Well, in every decision of the government, there is a political element, there is an economic dimension, and above that, there is an ethical dimension. This is the point which Dr. Manmohan Singh made. You cannot put 15 crore daily casual manual laborers to this kind of suffering for so many days. You cannot put 48.8% of India's workforce, which earns only a daily wage or a daily income, to this kind of suffering.
Are you telling me that the shrewd politicians on the other side and the treasury benches did not think about this?
No, their game is to build this narrative. Everything is wrapped up in this garb of nationalism. If you take cross-border action, that is nationalism. If you demonetize notes, that is nationalism. Everything is dressed up in this nationalism. Even cricket matches and football matches are being wrapped up in this garb of nationalism. I think they think that this nationalism narrative will cover up all their failures, all their failure to deliver on their promises and carry them to an election victory. Maybe they are right, maybe they are wrong. But I'm questioning the complete absence of the ethical dimension of such an action, and the economic, it doesn't make any economic sense at all to do this kind of action.
We in the media and you in the opposition and many others have questioned this government for the lack of bold reforms, bold action. They haven't put their political capital to enough use, adequate use. We may discuss and debate and disagree with what they've done, but do you believe this is perhaps the boldest move that the Modi government has made to date? Will you concede that?
If you believe that taking a step that causes massive disruption is bold, of course it's bold. Some may even think it's beautiful. The point is, what is the purpose of such a massive disruption to the economy? What is the purpose of causing so much suffering, so much pain to the working population of this country? What is the purpose of painting anyone who's got cash as a hoarder or a black marketer? What is the purpose of saying anyone who deals with cash is dealing with corrupt money. I mean, you are damning the people of India. You're damning the basis on which the Indian economy has functioned for years. Please remember, the people take their economic decision based on whatever laws are prevalent at any given time. There is no law banning cash transactions. I come from a village.
Right.
I grew up in a city, but I have very strong roots in a village. That's my constituency. There is what we call a shandy. That's a Tamil word or an Indian word which became shandy in English. It's a weekly market. In village A, it's Monday. Village B, it's Tuesday. Village C, it's Thursday. For the last 3 weeks,
there have been no shandies.
The market is closed. People bring their cucumber, jaggery, baskets, pots, pans, buy, sell. Completely closed. That is one end. The other end, Hapur market is closed. Azadpur Mandi is closed. The cotton Mandi is closed. Meerut cricket bat and ball industry is closed. Jalandhar, Ludhiana cycle industry is half closed. Cotton market in Maharashtra is closed. I mean, what is it you have done? It doesn't make any economic sense to me. All my training and whatever I know about how the economy is conducted tells me this makes no sense at all. And then the ethical question which Dr. Manmohan Singh raised, how can you put so many crores of people to such suffering and misery even if it's only for 50 days? It will last more than 50 days, let me tell you that.
So whether it's a cash crisis or a cash cleanup, the jury is still out there, and I think the Indian electorate will finally decide on that one. But thank you very much.
No, wait a minute. That's not a conclusion. All decisions taken by the electorate are not necessarily good decisions for the country. Electorate votes on bundle of issues. So don't assume that.
Do you not believe this is going to be a political issue in an election like UP?
In Assam, by-elections, the BJP won, and they say this is a vote for demonetization. In Bengal, they voted for the TMC, and the TMC claims it's a vote against demonetization. Now, which do you believe?
It can't be binary.
It can't be both. So I don't think that's the way to look at it. What you have to look at it is, in the long run, in the short term as well as in the long term, what is the benefit it has brought to the people of India? I think in the short run, it has brought nothing but misery and suffering and pain. In the long run, let's see.
We live to see another day, but thank you very much for speaking to us, sir.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ET Now Live. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.